Hello, and welcome back to Houseland. If you haven't been able to tell already, this is a continuation of our previous video where we played as the character that you just saw die on the screen, Shawata the First, and we are now picking up immediately where we left off at the end of that video as Shawata the Second. Our realm has been split up, like you saw at the end of the previous episode, into 3 separate kingdoms. Hausaland, which is our kingdom, Ibo Bene in the south, and Yorubaland, which are owned by our 2 sisters. So the first thing that we need to do before we can worry about doing anything else is we need to unite our realms again. Now, another thing that I want to highlight right at the beginning here is that Shawata II has a theology education. Now, she does unfortunately have the arrogant trait, which gives us prestige, but also is a sin to the Bori faith, so it's giving us a piety malice, but we should be able to stack a decent amount of piety on this character from the beginning. I also just got done recording a very special project that I think you guys are going to like a lot when it comes out. I think it's going to be really cool. It's going to be one of the coolest things that I have done yet. It's not going to be for a while. It's going to be for at least a week to probably 2 weeks, somewhere in there in that time frame. So if you're looking forward to it, I can't really give away much right now, but if you're looking forward to it like I'm looking forward to it, why don't you go ahead and hit the red subscribe button and maybe turn on the bell so that when I upload a video, you get a notification about it, you know? I mean, it's just a thought. Anyways, back to the game. We need to kill Ibo Bene, and that's going to be our first target. We're going to declare war on our sister. She doesn't really have any strong allies. She doesn't really have strong troops. So right away, we're going to go ahead and invade her lands. Now, she did get a cheeky battle win on me right there, or actually it was some troops that we were hostile to, not even her troops. So we had to retreat out for a second here after occupying our first batch of provinces, but after that, we were just going to go right back in. And she was actually deposed by a faction that she was fighting in the middle of this. We were actually fighting her child, who was approximately 0 years old, not even a toddler yet. So we just kind of walked in and took the rest of the kingdom, pressed our claim. So her child is still in the High Chiefdom of Ibo Land in the south, but the kingdom is now ours, and it's time to take Yorubaland. I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, she was actually in a disillusion war at the time that we declared this, so we had to go quickly before the kingdom just exploded, and we couldn't take it back anymore. Also, I've never seen this event before, but I thought it was really cool. Someone tried to kill me, but I was able to block the knife with the book that I had, the book artifact, and then I bashed the person's head in with the book. That was just completely insane. So, I mean, it's funny to look back now and think that this character's run could have ended right there if we didn't have this book artifact, but yeah. Our son is also the king of Jene over to our west, and I mean, the kingdom of Jene is hardly even a kingdom anymore, so there's not really much we're going to be able to do with that, especially since Jene's succession is male preference and ours is female preference. It is highly unlikely that we are ever going to be able to actually unite our realms peacefully. So unless we make the empire that Jene is de jure a part of and then we get them to swear fealty, but I mean, even then, still super unlikely. So now that we've united our 3 kingdoms back into one, Jene needed our help, and considering it was our son on the throne, we have to say yes. But he just kept getting more and more and more wars declared on him. I believe we got called into 4 separate wars. One of them, he was getting Holy Ward for his duchy to the north, and then he was also fighting an independence war, and he was fighting a raid for hostages war against Ghana. So we had to kind of prioritize and try and tackle one war at a time. It was around this time that I realized that there was no way for us to really win the war against the invaders from the north trying to holy war for the duchy. So instead of trying to combat them, I just tried to unsiege things that were sieged by the independence wars or by Ghana. I was trying to go for the independence war first, since that was the most territory that I could actually try and preserve Jene. And then after that, I was going to focus on Ghana because the rest of them weren't really too much of a threat. This event, I think, bugged out really bad because it is the event where someone is trying to like spy and follow around your husband, but I think the courtier that it randomly picked out to like have them be spying on it was also my husband. So the game was kind of having an aneurysm trying to say that my husband was trying to spy on my husband, and should I let my husband know that he's trying to harm himself? So I just ignored that, and it was totally fine. So, but I thought that was interesting. So anyways, we're just doing some more sieges, trying to finish up the Independence War. It really wasn't that many counties, so we just had to bounce around, siege a thing or two. And then here, some of the best luck that I've had so far in this campaign, we got the athletic trait. The athletic trait is one of my favorite traits to have on any character when I'm playing this game. It is so nice to have a good stress-reducing trait that also gives you health. Like, the only one that even kind of compares is Confider, because you're able to lose stress without having any negatives from it. You just click the button every now and then and you lose stress. Kind of like when you have a pet cat in the game, you can just pet the cat. But athletic also gives you a health bonus, and you can get other bonuses as well from losing stress with the athletic trait. So it's just crazy. So really fortunate that we got that instead of having to get the rakish trait and having to kind of sleep around in some brothels. So we got 100% on the first war, and it was now time to focus our attentions back towards Ghana. When I first inherited as this character, we already had all of those traits in the whole of body tree filled out, so we were already getting a lot of health bonuses and some counters to illnesses from that tree. So I immediately swapped over. I swapped to theology focus, and I was trying to go down the right tree so that we can get the prophet perk like we tried to get as our previous character. And then later on in the theology tree, there's, I believe, 2 or 3 separate 20% monthly piety increase bonuses that we were going to need so that we could try and reform our religion later on. Jenne white-pieced with Ghana, which was perfectly fine with me. Nothing happened with that. They lost the war to the invaders in the north, which was to be expected. And now there was just a little tiny war against Timbuktu that it exists only in 2 provinces, so wasn't really a whole lot to do there. We're also making a decent amount of money, and we had a lot of prestige, so I was starting to try and build buildings whenever we were generating cash. I sincerely hope that me helping Jenne in 4 different wars is going to appease the commenters from some previous videos that are like, I always help my allies because I get so much prestige from it. It's so useful. Why would you ally somebody if you're not going to help them? I helped them, okay? I sincerely hope you're happy. I was thinking about all of those comments in the back of my brain while I was fighting all of these wars, and I was like, I have to say something during the video. I have to be like, see, I listened to you for once. We got a lot of prestige from it, but do I still think it was worth it? I mean, since they're my dynasty member, sure, it's kind of cool to have them on the throne of Jenne, but did I just spend like a lot of time and a lot of resources helping wars for an ally that isn't really going to help me out later and whose land I'm going to have to conquer later on anyways? Yes. So I'll let you make your own judgment call on that. We went on a pilgrimage, and we gained the pilgrim trait for even more piety, and we gained the wise woman perk from that, which is a virtue to our religion, so that's also going to give us even more monthly piety. At this point, even though it costs piety to go in this direction because we're declaring war on fellow Boris, I wanted to try and expand east to about the limits of the Bori faith so that we could create the Empire of KANEM BORNU, because I really didn't want to have another situation like when our previous character died, where our land split into a million different kingdoms. And the more we conquered, the more kingdoms we were inheriting and getting and creating, so it was just going to create more and more and more problems. Because with our succession law, even if we don't create a kingdom, when we die, the kingdom will be created for one of our kids so that they can inherit. Some of our kids were dying, but we were also having a lot of kids, so I knew that, no matter what, we were going to have an inheritance mess if I didn't get this empire created and sorted out very, very quickly. I also started declaring multiple wars at the same time sometimes around this time so that we could try and get the most bang for our buck so that we don't have to constantly be re-raising and standing down our armies. I was trying to do as many duchy conquests as I possibly could because those are the most efficient CBs that we have available to us right now. But I mean, since West Africa is divided up between so many little counties, so many chiefs, and so many high chieftains whose borders don't always line up perfectly with their de jure duchies, It's just a pretty slow and arduous process. The rest of Africa, as far as like North Africa and near the Sahara goes, I think is going to be a lot quicker to conquest, just because it's going to be less quantity of wars that we have to wage. But I'm not exactly too sure about that. We'll have to wait and see. I'm also still giving away all of the territory to Hausa nobles, just to kind of see what would happen out of curiosity, see if they would form any hybrid cultures. Since when they do form a hybrid culture out of Hausa, you start with 100% cultural acceptance, which is more than we're ever going to be able to get giving out titles to the other cultures. And again, like I said in the other video, if my vassals are wasting their time putting down peasant rebellions and dealing with cultures that don't fully like the Hausa culture, then that's less time that they're trying to kill me and trying to start factions against me. So, you know, always a good thing. By this time, we were the preeminent power in Western Africa. Nobody could really rival us in strength unless they had a bunch of different allies. And even then, I mean, there really wasn't much that they could do against us since we were making a lot of money, and we could most often hire mercenaries. So at this point, we were pretty much making like Russia and continuing our relentless push east to try and get enough counties to be able to form this empire title. I was also trying to save my money up at this point. I was ransoming prisoners left and right, since whenever you siege down a tribe, it's really easy to conquer prisoners, and we were doing a lot of warring and a lot of sieging. More and more duchy conquests. This guy only had 111 troops. So we pretty much just walked in and took it. I mean, wasn't really much to do. So we captured his son, he surrendered, and there you go. Now, the remaining 3 provinces that he had kind of blocked our way through to Darfur on the other side. So since we still had to go through the Duchy of West Darfur, but eventually I just decided, you know what, let's just skip him, and we'll come back for him later on because we had a truce. So eventually you'll see we just kind of bypassed him and declared war on the person behind him. But we had these little counties to clean up first. I mean, it really is the single county wars that I hate the most when you're this big, because they're just annoying. I don't want to have to raise up all of my troops to start these wars and fight these for single counties. Like, it just feels so pitiful, but in order to get the achievement that we're going for, we have to own the entirety of Africa. So the entirety of Africa means every single county in Africa. My vassals were here and there also kind of helping out by waging their own conquest wars against some of the weaker single province enemies around me. So if I left them for enough time, then they would probably continue their conquests outside my borders, and they would expand my borders for me. But that's just really, really slow. Circling back to our old enemies in KANEM, we decided to go in for the Emirate of KANEM and take their namesake from them. I'm pretty sure I had been able to usurp the Kingdom of KANEM for a really, really long time from them, but it doesn't really give me any tangible benefits because I don't think any of the vassals that would have popped up would have sworn fealty to me. So we wouldn't have really gotten anything from it, and it's a lot of money to usurp a kingdom from somebody. It's way more money than it is to just create it if it ever gets destroyed. So my husband was also thrown in prison at the same time that we found out that he was cheating on us. So that was kind of awkward. An interesting series of 3 events that just popped up on the screen. I didn't really do anything about it, and I also wound up just embracing celibacy so that we would stop having kids and gain even more piety. So we already had more than enough kids to have our succession be secure, and our kids were having kids. So, I mean, we're always going to have another female character in the dynasty that will be able to inherit for us. And at this point, I only had two daughters that were going to inherit. So I was thinking, if I can form this empire, then I can grant my daughter a kingdom title somewhere where she will be out of sight, out of mind, doing her own thing, and I won't have to worry about her declaring war on me. So that was the plan at this point. And here's what I was talking about earlier, where we reach past West Darfur and just declare war on Darfur for the entire duchy. So, I mean, I think it is kind of dumb that you don't need a direct border with somebody to declare a conquest war on them. You can just kind of walk through another area to conquest it. But then when you think about it, like, how would people get there to govern it, to do anything, to travel there, even though it's your country? It's not, like, it's almost, I don't know. I feel like it just doesn't really make much sense. One of our vassals challenged us to chess, so I just spammed the learning button until I won. I still really, if I'm being honest, don't fully understand how the games and the duels work. I think they're really cool, but I mean, I feel like there's just not enough options to make it really, like, I don't know, really fun to do. So, and then my husband died after he had been cheating on me. So, I mean, serves him right, I guess. But I guess it just isn't clear enough what had happened on the turn before. Like, you click the chess button or the duel button or the single combat button or whatever, and it's like you have a high chance of doing X and a low chance of doing Y. And then you click it, and then you just have to make another decision. It doesn't tell you if you made a good decision, if you rolled bad, if you did anything. I mean, it probably does somewhere, and I'm just missing it. But I don't know. I'm a little too impatient to search for information that's hidden. So if it's not right on the screen in front of me, I'm going to miss it. So I don't know. We're continuing our conquests anyways, even though I just had a mini rant on the chess game. So I hope y'all like that. Another interesting tidbit, there's a giant Ashari Navarra. So that's really cool. Al-Andalus is still around. So is Galicia and Leon. Aragon isn't there, hasn't formed. There's Barcelona, but I just think it's interesting that Navarra is so big and they're also Ashari. Hadn't really seen that one before. Here's us summoning our hordes of soldiers to take yet another single county. So they decided to suicide 62 troops into me and get their leader captured. So that's always fun. Good on them for doing that and not making me sit there and siege the entire time. So we'll take that and give it to somebody else. Now, the number one thing that is driving me crazy about this playthrough right now is Tibetsi. Tibetsi's borders are horrendous and they need resolved right away. That's going to be one of the first orders of business on my agenda after we form the Empire of KANEM BORNU. The borders, not great, okay? The borders, like 5 out of 10, I would say. The color, though, the color is a 10 out of 10. This is one of my favorite country colors that I have ever had the privilege of playing as in my time playing CK3, I must say. We were also able to just go ahead and vassalize West Darfur, so that bumps our border ranking up to maybe like a 5.5 out of 10, makes it a bit better. But dang, Tibetsi is just, they're doing crimes against borders over there. I was thinking now, I still have an invasion CB and we border Nubia. So wouldn't it be cool if I just kind of walked in, declared war on the Nubians and took over all of that? So I don't know. It was in the back of my mind now. We also got the garlic ruler event, the garlic king or garlic queen event. And I had never gotten this event alongside the arrogant trait. So I didn't know that you could get an option to just not be called the garlic person by throwing somebody in prison. I thought that was really funny. So I decided to include it in the video. I hope you also think it's funny, an interesting little tidbit. Another thing that we can do now is we can create kingdoms and they can still be our vassals, which is going to be really, really nice because we had at one point like several powerful vassals that all wanted to be on the council because they're all really strong dukes. But of course we can't fit all of them on the council. So now we can just stick them under kings that are of our dynasty, so they're going to like us and they're going to ally us. Like I gave this one to my son. Then we won't have to worry about them. You know, as long as you set them up for success. You know, I mean, if you just give a kid one county in a kingdom and tell him to go have fun, then it's probably not going to work out in the long run. He's just going to get deposed, and then, I mean, then why did you even give it to him? So you're just going to have an uppity vassal that's going to take it over. But I mean, if you give them like a duchy worth of land, you give them, you know, a decent amount of stuff, you kind of keep track of them for a little bit, then they'll be totally fine. I like giving stuff to dynasty members. I think it's interesting, even though eventually they get claims on your stuff and they can kind of cause problems, but oh well. Our invasion of Nubia with the conga line of troops that we had formed to all funnel through that one really long province got all of a sudden interrupted by our marshal coming to us, handing us an axe and saying, hey, be careful out there, for no particular reason, until we threatened her into telling us what was going on. And she said, oh, my heart is just bleeding for the independence faction. I can't help but support their cause. And then you look and the independence faction has one member with 5% of my military power. And she's like, the military or the independence faction is going to try and hurt you today. And I'm like, I wonder if I should if I should trust some of my closest champions to guard me. And one of my closest champions to guard me, which I would have told, is the one singular duke that is the leader of the Independence faction. So I was like, no, I'm not confiding in this guy. That I know that a sympathizer to his faction is like, I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know. Whatever, Marshall. If you want to throw your support and abandon my court for some faction that is never going to go anywhere ever and is going to disband within a few months, like, go for it. Go for it. I'm too busy invading Nubia. I don't got time for this. So, you can check that independent sympathy at the door, because you're not bringing it in here. Also, I never wound up needing my axe. I was kind of looking forward to giving some independence faction sympathizers a good smackdown, but I guess it wasn't to be. I mean, invading Nubia was really, really annoying because we had to funnel through this one province that the only thing that I could ever focus on about it was that it had milk in the name, and I thought it was really funny. So we had to walk through the milk province to get to their capital, and then we just kind of formed this like conga line so that we wouldn't be taking too much attrition. And I mean, it seemed to work out. It worked out pretty well. The conga line is a pretty effective strategy, I think. We also became a theologian, so now we're making just insane amounts of piety per month, about 12 per month. So hopefully, if we stop spending it and are able to bank up enough for a while, then we'll be able to reform the religion. Who knows? We had our big battle against the Nubians for 100% war score, completely demolished them, and took over some vassals, took over a bunch of provinces, and expanded KANEM BORNU all the way out here, which just makes Tibesti, I've been saying Tibetsi, but it's Tibesti's crimes against borders just so much worse because they're blocking our font. How is our font supposed to go all the way across West Africa when they're jutting out into my country? Like, what the heck? And the worst part about it is that little clump of counties that is to the south of their realm, there's 3 of them there, and they're in 3 separate duchies. So I can't even declare one war and just get rid of it. I would have to subjugate them, which I don't want to do. I don't want to use my subjugate war on just Tibet. Tibesti, I keep wanting to say Tibetsi. Tibesti. I don't know. Now they're mixed up in my brain. I don't remember which one is right. But now I just want to make my borders look a lot prettier. So I'm going to go ahead and mop up this single county in air. And again, I have to try and conga line into this single county. So I've also started not using the majority of the army for a lot of these wars. Wherever I'm fighting, I'll just raise up the local army along with my men-at-arms, and then that's plenty. We don't need the full 12,000 for pretty much anybody. Now, I'm also trying to stack health, so I've bounced back over to the leftmost tree in the learning education, declaring a war on Kordofan here so that we can try and clean up our borders here because they're such a different color from us. But it also does take a really long time for us to raise our army, and this isn't even the entire army. Like, I'm just raising local every single time, and this is what we're getting. There's a ton. It's crazy. It's been a long time since I played CK3 with an army this big, and let me tell you, it is both really fun and really, really annoying at the exact same time. My kids also kept turning out sickly, even though not sickly, they kept turning out frail, even though I didn't have any trait from the frail tree, and neither did my husband or any of my concubines, so. But I had at least a couple come out with that congenital trait, so I'm not sure exactly where it came from. So we're bouncing back over, trying to mop up some of these little tiny single counties that are on the western border now that we're kind of done expanding east for the time being. I think most likely as my next character, my next invasion war is for sure going to be against Egypt, because currently Egypt is just in their like perfect de jure borders, and it's a huge kingdom too. So I'm keeping that in the back of my head as well. But I'm also noticing a lot of these wars we're winning through sheer numbers alone. When it comes down to it, we don't have that many men-at-arms in comparison to how many levies we have. Like, it's not proportional at all. So the quality of our army is actually pretty bad, which is going to need fixed as soon as possible, but we just don't have the cultural innovations yet to be able to build more or better men-at-arms, so we're kind of just stuck levy swarming everybody. I was able to form the Kingdom of Nubia after it got destroyed because the previous holder didn't have any counties left inside the actual Kingdom of Nubia. So I formed that, and then I gave it to a daughter that I had disinherited, so hopefully she isn't too mad that she got disinherited because she got a kingdom out of it. So that also put a lot of the wrong religion vassals that I had inherited from that kingdom underneath her, so she can deal with it, and it won't be my problem, which is perfect. This is what I was talking about earlier. All of their provinces are separated out into different duchies. So I figured I'm just gonna go for the biggest one, and then we'll just have this little clump in the middle of my country for a while. Hopefully my vassals will go through and mop it up. That's what I was thinking. We also got called into this really weird war all the way in West Africa because we just have some random allies out. See, this is an example of an ally war that I will never help in ever. If it is that far away, it's not happening. No shot. No way am I walking my armies all the way around there to go help with that. No, thank you. This was another really easy but also really annoying war since they're just really long and skinny. I do appreciate that Paradox decided to put in kind of like these routes through the Sahara that people can have and people can walk through and armies can walk through to kind of connect West Africa to North Africa in a way. It's almost like those are the well-traversed trading routes that the nomadic peoples would walk through to get from the West African tribes up to the North African tribes. So it makes sense in my brain, but that doesn't make them any less annoying to conquer, especially now that this turned the desert to our north blue, like the wasteland that we can't walk through, it turned it blue, and yet we still have Tibesti in the middle of our country. I formed the Kingdom of Sao and gave it to one of my vassals in the hopes that maybe they would deal with it. So I also went on another pilgrimage. This is when I was really trying to stack piety in earnest. This was the piety stacking time. I needed as much as I could get because I wanted to make some pretty significant changes to our religion. And the one guy who commented on the last video saying that he hoped that I did not reform the religion in the way that I had shown in the last video, don't worry, I read your comment. Thank you for the comment, and you'll see what I wound up deciding to do in just a little bit. Went to war with Ueland, and at this point, I had remembered from when I was thinking about declaring war on Tibesti. I think that's it. I'm gonna permanently say the wrong one, I swear, for the entire video. That I still had a subjugate war left, and now that we're an empire, it would be really neat and really easy to just subjugate a kingdom, and the biggest one that I was close to now was Gur. So I was trying to conquer my way to have a border with Gur, because unlike conquer CBs, you actually have to have a border with somebody to try and subjugate them. So I was just raising up the army over and over and over again, declaring conquers over and over and over again, and vassalizing people when they would kind of spring up. This person was over here, where that annoying duchy was that I am not going to name was earlier, and I was able to vassalize one, and I was like, I'm going to come back for the rest of these later, because these are going to be super easy wars now. I can just raise up my men-at-arms, and we'll probably win. I couldn't vassalize the other two, which sucked. I probably could have if I took the time to sway each of them, but I was like, it'll take more time to do that than to just declare a conquer on them after this war. So the battles, I mean, like I've said a million times so far in the series, the battles are super easy. We just have way too many men. Nobody can compete. So the only real threat is when I split up the army to siege, and then all of the AI armies coalesce into one mega AI army, and then they immediately converge on one of my split off stacks. That's the only time that we're really threatened. So now that we had a border with Gur, I was able to declare the subjugate. Again, they have nowhere near enough troops to even try and put up a fight. So we're still ransoming people. The entire empire of KANEM BORNU is bankrolled by ransoming prisoners. That's where the vast majority of our money is coming from. And not a whole lot of it at this point is getting reinvested into buildings. The vast majority of my gold is getting spent on creating titles that have been destroyed through our conquests. Like the kingdom titles that we conquer that have to get created and given out, the duchy titles eventually, if it would just help make things neater, if I can give out a duchy title to somebody. But that's where most of our gold is going, and it's letting us farm a large amount of prestige, which is then letting us declare more wars, which is then letting us capture more prisoners, which is then letting us ransom more prisoners, which we then use to create more titles, and you see where the loop is going. That's kind of, once the ball got rolling, that's exactly what we were doing. I got challenged to the greatest game, chess, once again, and once again I just spammed the learning button and won. Called her a hag, and then that was that. Fun fact about me, I was a state competition chess competitor in high school, and now I think I'm roughly ranked like 1,000, somewhere around there, in rapid chess, so, you know, somewhat of a chess expert, I guess. Not really, not at all. 1,000 is pretty bad at the game, but, you know, if I was in CK3, I would be a chess monster. No doubt about that. I looked back over at the people that I wanted to conquer earlier, now that we were out of war, and I saw that, oh, my vassals are doing it already for me. How great. So I just left them to it. No real reason to intervene in that. Our font at this point had actually stretched out over the entirety of our empire, which was nice, but, you know, until we patch the holes, I'm not going to be too satisfied. I was seeing if we could declare war for any good duchies against the Tulanids, but I think it'll just be way smarter to wait until we get another character that can either try and holy war for the kingdom once we've reformed, or try and use our invasion CB on the kingdom, because they really do just fit perfectly in their de jure kingdom. Like, it's crazy how well they were able to do that. Again, just mopping up some of the tiny people. It's crazy how many times I walked into these one province miners, fought their tiny army, and then just immediately captured them because they were leading it. Like, the AI just really, really likes leading their own armies. And if you hear in the background there, that subtle noise, that popping cat noise, I was recording and I was like, what is that? And then I remembered, that's my Twitch follower and subscribe notification sound. And I guess while I was offline recording this, I wasn't accidentally streaming. I know that probably just went through somebody's brain. I wasn't accidentally streaming this, but somebody had followed while I was offline for some reason. I guess one of you just decided to track down my Twitch account, which I know I link it in the description of every video, which, by the way, you know, now that I'm mentioning it, like, I should go check it out. I stream there sometimes. But somebody just decided to follow while I was offline and set off the popping cat sound in the background while I was playing the game. So if that was you, you made it into the video. Congratulations. This was one of the most brutal wars that has been fought in this entire campaign so far. I thought it was going to be super easy. I was like, I'm going to walk in, get this really skinny, kind of like wishbone-shaped, like crossroads province. It'll be really cool. I can use it as like a launching point for invasions in both directions to the north, because it kind of forks off there. But oh my god, is fighting in these choke points so annoying. I finally granted my niece the kingdom title that had been taken from her line earlier in the video, so we made them the queens of Iboland once again, and also chased down this army that decided to run through all of my territory in this little hook, which the AI was able to do without taking any casualties at all. They ran past the tribe and hooked around, and they still weren't taking attrition every time they moved the tile, so that kind of annoyed me. But this is what I did. This was my mess up. I decided to split the army up to go siege in a few different places, and then it didn't really work out very well. My son, like I mentioned earlier, my son was able to hybridize the Hausa culture and a culture that was present in the Kingdom of Darfur that we gave him earlier. So the tactic of giving only Hausa cultured people titles was, you know, starting to work out. We had 100% acceptance with that hybrid culture, which is pretty cool. This 3,000 stack came out of nowhere, so I ran back to defendable terrain. It said that we were going to decisively win, And then that just wasn't true. The game just blatantly lied. I mean, look at how many men-at-arms he has. They're all disadvantaged except for a couple of them due to being countered or due to the terrain, but, you know, sometimes the game just lies. I mean, I understand sometimes you can just get unlucky, but we had the advantage, we had everything, and we just couldn't hold out until the other part of the army made it all the way around. And by then, it was like, oh, if you keep attacking before they recover, you'll win. You're likely to win. It'll happen. No, it's not even close. It's not even close, game. Why did you lie to me? I could have turned around. I mean, I still probably would have got caught, but I could have turned around. I don't know. So at this point, I was like, screw it. I'm upset. Summon the Horde. So I raised up an additional like 10,000 men or something like that and marched back in with all of the levies, and we just dogpiled his army. I was like, yeah, you wanna mess around, you wanna fight my armies and win when they're separate, you know. You want the game to lie to me and tell me that I'm gonna win 2 battles that I'm definitely not and never had any chance of winning ever, and I should have known better, and I know, but now I'm gonna raise 15,000 levies and I'm gonna swarm your duchy. So how does that make you feel? Probably pretty inferior, huh? I'm sure some of you have probably noted the increasing rasp in my voice over the past portion of this video. And I know it's been something that I comment on at the end of pretty much every video, how my voice is continually dying. So I just went and made myself some tea. It's dried papaya, dried mango, orange peel, lemon peel, hibiscus, and orange blossom, I believe. So it's very good, and it is helping. So shout out to the person who commented to try and drink some herbal tea. What's funny is that right after I said tea, I had to quickly pause the recording and have a coughing fit. Anyways, we are reforming our religion, and now I get to talk about what tenets we actually went for. Instead of having both of the tenets that gave us conquest CBs and things like that, I listened to my commenter, who very wisely told me to instead take Islamic syncretism, so that when we start venturing up north and conquering the majority of the Islamic portion of Africa, we will have less problems with rebellions while we still have Islamic vassals before everybody is converted and before all of the land is converted. I also decided to go for a righteous attitude instead of fundamentalist for the same reason. We are sacrificing 20% conversion speed on the counties, but it'll be so much easier to actually conquer everything if we don't continually have all of our vassals of another religion trying to kill us and trying to create factions against us. We went for female-dominated opinion on gender, and I also swapped off of concubines to monogamous. I know some people were saying that I should go for concubines or polygamous just to have a better choice of kids and some of the other benefits that come along with that, but with a succession type that divides everything between all of our kids still, I am going to go for monogamous just so that we have less kids and we don't have to sacrifice any prestige or fame or anything like that for not having enough spouses or enough kids. We had also risen after our previous war to the highest piety devotion rank that we can possibly have. So I hereby declare this character to be the founding saint of our new reformed Bori faith. It's also going to have a really nice pink color. So the religion map is going to look a little scuffed for a while, but this character, very, very, very great character. And I am looking forward to continuing this playthrough with the rest of this character's life as they try and consolidate the rest of West Africa while starting the process of trying to convert everything to the new reformed Bori faith. I really hope y'all enjoyed watching the Saint Empress of KANEM BORNU reform the faith and conquer so much territory. Stay tuned and subscribe if you want to get notified when the next part comes out, because we're going to be continuing this later on. So till then, I will see y'all later.